Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I'm starting here crypto's biggest stories of 2023. Guess who is the biggest story from the article? It's an Axios article. XRP ruled not a security. The number one story of 2023, the year's biggest bombshell, remains mostly misunderstood. While the court found some impropriety in how Ripple Labs originally offered its cryptocurrency, XRP, this was a footnote that history will ignore. What really mattered, U.S. Judge Annalisa Torres ruled that the asset today no longer qualifies for securities regulation. This was SE Chair Gensler's worst loss, coming on what has been the biggest legal issue for digital assets. How the government categorizes these instruments determines how freely they can trade in the U.S. Then we had this. Brad Garlinghouse retweeted this is the video Gary Gensler put out yesterday.
There's a lot of non-compliance.
And by the way, what I think Gary Gensler's doing here, folks, I think that he has so much egg on his face that he's now about to have to bend the knee and do this Bitcoin ETF that now he's trying to cover for himself.
There's a lot of non-compliance with the securities laws that are there to help give you the disclosure so you can make the investment decision, but also to protect you against fraud and manipulation. And there's been far too much
I'm going to show you fraud and manipulation, Gary.
And bad actors in the crypto field. There's a lot of
all the bad actors, the worst actors are the ones that he has protected.
And it's not only with the securities laws, but other laws around anti-money laundering and protecting the public. This is really the Wild West, and it's around the globe. I would say again, this is a small part of our U.S. capital markets, but it can undermine confidence when so many people have been hurt, and all they can do is then stand in line at a bankruptcy court, and it's not just one actor, and it's not just, it's just a few bad actors over here. This is something.
Remember when his SEC was standing in line with the BlockFi thing ahead of the investors to get their money first?
Thing that pervades a lot of this field globally, and it's hard for the good faith actors even to compete because there's so many challenges elsewhere.
Right. When he says good faith actors, he's not referring to people like Ripple who were good faith actors. He's referring to J.P. Morgan and his buddies on Wall Street. Brad Garlinghouse said, stunning hypocrisy from the person who cozied up to the biggest fraud in recent memory, Sam Bankman-Fried. Gensler is a political liability whose actions have decimated consumers and destroyed the integrity of the SEC while remaining buddy-buddy with Wall Street. And I said, well, it appears hanging with fraudsters is just how Gary rolls, Brad. This is back, for those that don't know, Gary Gensler also ran the CFTC, and while he was chairman there, He presided over the MF Global debacle, and that was his buddy John Corzine that created that entire mess. Okay, and Gary Gensler literally had to, as I recall, it was his job to come down on MF Global and handle the thing, and he stepped out and recused himself, pulled the coward move. But look, here's what's funny is that Twitter or X is correcting, adding context. Says crypto companies like Coinbase, a public company that the SEC oversaw the listing of, have been trying to gain clarity on SEC guidance for compliance for the past few years. The SEC hasn't taken a clear stance and has relied on regulation by enforcement. So calling old Gary out. All right, now, folks, you got to see this. Ripple put two more 2024 predictions out. Here's the first one I like. A major U.S. retailer will accept cryptocurrency as a form of payment, allowing Americans the ability to use blockchain-based payments for everyday purchases. I think Amazon or Uber would be the perfect companies to do that. But that's not all, folks. This is my favorite. Utility boom 2024. We expect that funding will rebound with a renewed focus on companies solving real-world problems, not centered purely around infrastructure. We're going beyond this and focusing on the utility behind the tech. Utility boom. Words mean things, folks. This will be on my thumbnail. Utility boom 2024. Now, these are some guys at the NASDAQ talking, and here's a quote. I couldn't find where they said this exact quote, but it says 2024 is going to be the year when Bitcoin is still an important digital asset, but won't be the reference for digital assets. I believe that what they're talking about here is what they're really saying is that it won't be the reference, because the reference will be the digital assets that have utility. And this guy says it here at the about this mark right here. If I can get it to play. Come on now. Let me see if I can mess with. I accidentally stopped my recording there, and now I'm Mr. B. I'm checking my volumes to make sure my volume didn't go down. Sometimes it resets. Let me hit the refresh on this and see if I can get it to play. All right, because we went to the, let me see, I'm going to do this. Let's try this. All right.
Moving toward token.
Let me go to the right.
Sure, absolutely.
Here.
I think there are factors internal to the industry that we have had the opportunity to reflect upon and internalize. What I'm thinking of is a pivot away from volatility use cases only to actual practical use cases. Again, things like stablecoins, focusing on stablecoins. And I think the industry continues to mature. I think there's...
You're going to see it, folks. All right. Putin has signed law that brings nation's central bank digital currency or digital ruble into the tax code. Then we have this. SEC just met with all spot Bitcoin ETF issuers, told them to remove any reference to in-kind redemptions from their filings. Cash creates only... Folks, this Bitcoin ETF thing could have been solved in the real world out here in business, where people actually have to make a profit and they're not in some government agency that is just there for the purpose of holding people at gunpoint and siphoning money out of them. A businessman could have gotten this Bitcoin ETF done in a freaking day. They could have gone into a room and said, all right, guys, we're going to hash this out until it works, and we'll be done with this thing. Not how this government crap works. They just met with all the Bitcoin ETF issuers. Eleanor Terrett has a double scoop. Charles Gasparino had a scoop, which was SEC is having what's described as rare joint conference call with prospective spot Bitcoin ETF filers as it closely watched decision looms on whether to give these green light. Then she does the double scoop. Sources that are on call tell me it was on the call tell me it was to do without making sure everyone is doing cash. That doesn't make any sense. The SEC asked issuers to remove all hints of in-kind redemptions from their filings. She explains it down here. She says it means that issuers have to convert their Bitcoin to cash before trading shares of the ETF. In other words, they can't use Bitcoin to purchase or redeem the shares. The SEC does not currently allow BDs to trade in Bitcoin, broker-dealers. Here's our article. Okay, so that clears that up. Then we've got this. Look, Gary's buddies over in Hong Kong. It's almost like they're going to do their ETF in sync with Gary. Almost like Gary's working with the country that starts with a C. We'll get into more of that in DAIXRP.com, where we will reveal what I really think has gone on in all of this. And I think it is bad. Just like I think this is bad. John Deaton says, someone visit Sam, SBF, and tell him FTX's SOL holdings are now worth almost $6 billion from $1 billion since the bottom, and that the spot ETF is about to happen along with halving in April. Could be crypto's biggest year ever. Then ask him, how's that feel, asshole? Now, I retweeted this and I said, that's probably why the same characters behind, I've been saying this for a few days, I've noticed the same people that were behind building up FTX as this great place, great exchange and all, same people that were behind pumping Ethereum and Bitcoin for the last few years, the same people, the same narrative carrying group, the same people that are all in the tank for the government and Wall Street, those same people are the ones that have been pumping up Solana. The same people who want to resurrect FTX. I don't think that the pumping of Sol is for no reason. I think it's for the purpose of bringing FTX back to life. Because I think something in that FTX thing is so dirty that they can't afford not to resurrect it. That's what I think. Speaking of one of the people that was behind really building up FTX was one of the investors, Anthony Scaramucci. He says, just a theory. And don't be surprised if it happens, but it feels like a Bitcoin Cash ETF could be approved next week. It's a holiday week. It's also a way to bury the news when people aren't paying attention. Classic news dump. Market isn't expecting it. Be ready. Now, I'm going to go into DAIXRP.com, and in there today, I'm going to talk about, now that Gary's going to try to act like he's a hero and give everybody a Bitcoin ETF, I'm going to show you what this government, what this SEC has done and who they have done it with. That country over there that starts with a C, that bank over here that starts with a JP. I'm going to show you, and I'm going to show you some of the, I think that there's a lot of nefarious stuff behind all of it, and I'm going to go into some of that. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. DAIXRP.com. And by the way, XRP Las Vegas, I've got $25 off in the group. And also, I have the link in the description of this video. There's also a link to the Chamber of Digital Commerce thing where they're going to do a fundraiser. Brad Garlinghouse is going to be there, and it'll be interesting. So here we go, going into the group.